and pleasant nights, fellow travelers along the path of the beam. I am known on this level of the tower as Jaime and Fuego, and if it please you, join me here for a bit of palaver on another installment of Hail to Stephen King. That is right, y'all. My favorite author, as you can see by that terrifying tower of books behind me. And this is just a little 35th anniversary celebration about the legacy of the Children of the Corn film franchise, guys. Yes, and the reason that I am doing it here on March 9th, 2019, in the year of 19, damn Rizzle, is because 35 years ago today was when that original theatrical film with Linda Hamilton hit theaters, and it went on to spawn. It took them a while to get it rocking. You know, the first sequel didn't come out until 1992, and then they just kept cranking them out, and it is the most adapted slash sequelized. It's the longest running Stephen King based property franchise of anything that he has done, which is really wild when you think about it, because you're just like, wow, there's, you know, between the likes of The Shining and The Stand and Pet Sematary and It and these really big ones that he's known for, it's like, man, as far as at least features, okay? Now, we're not taking into consideration, like, you know, stuff like, I don't know, Mr. Mercedes, that's about to start a third season, or, you know, something like the Dead Zone, where they, you know, turned it into a television series and started telling new stories, you know, about Smith and everything. And I mean, it's not one of my personal favorite series, but I gotta say, you can really see why it's been franchised so much, you know, for the sheer fact that it's one of the most legit creepy premises that Cy King has ever come up with. And the original short story was published in Penthouse, of all places, in 1977, and then a year later, in 78, it showed up collected in Nightshift. And that original short story is terrific. It's one of the most scary and effed up things when you think about just what happens with this small town of Gatlin in Nebraska, you know, in corn country. And, you know, just the just insane religious fervor, you know, blasphemous insanity that spreads amongst these children, and they proceed to go and they kill all their parents, and they take over in, you know, some weird backwards ass craziness. This small little town that time has kind of forgotten, obviously, since all this time goes by, and just the things that they instill in with, you know, after you get to the age of 19, you know, you have to become like a human sacrifice, and just the idea of he who walks behind the rose and everything. I mean, it's a super, super creepy idea, and the original short story I adore, as I said, but the film with Linda Hamilton, you know, we did a review of it here on the channel, so this isn't going to be like a full-on review of, you know, Children of the Corn. If you would like to see myself, Marsha Parker, and Cecil Laird a few years ago, and I'm trying to remember if it was before I had started Hail to Stephen King or not, but that's the thing, Cecil still wants to go back and review all of the Children of the Corn films, and I was going to do them for Hail, and he's like, no, me and Marsha want to be a part of those, and so I'm like, okay, so I will allow y'all to be a part of the review separate from Hail for both Children of the Corn, and those two want to, or at least Cecil wants to do the Mangler films, since it's like creature stuff. But before the 1984 film actually arrived in March of 84, previous year in 83, there was a dollar baby which was done called Disciples of the Crow. I'm not sure why they wanted to change the name for whatever reason, but it's not really that bad. I mean, I just rewatched it tonight, along with taking another peek at the film, you know, just for the sheer fact that I know I'd watched it a few years ago when I first discovered it, and I was just watching a bunch of different dollar babies. For the uninitiated, Cy King will allow small independent filmmakers and student, you know, aspiring filmmakers and whatnot to adapt slash option his material for $1, you know, which is really cool. And there's so many of them floating around, not just on YouTube or the interwebs, but that have just never really seen like a real legitimate release, or, you know, pop up on the interwebbies and whatnot. But so Disciples of the Crow, it's actually it's more faithful in some aspects than the bigger budget feature, you know, that with Sarah Connor that we get the very next year, especially with Bert and, oh boy, I'm trying to remember her name, Linda, I want to say. Anyway, the quarreling couple, we will just call them. And that's something that is really kind of de-emphasized for the 84 feature, and you really get that proper sense of it. And it also pops back up in the 2009 readaptation, the remake of the original short story and stuff. So yeah, the Disciples of the Crow actually gets that tone right, and it's not bad with, you know, how it's shot and the, you know, but the problem is with that one is that first and foremost it's less than 20 minutes, so you know there's only so much that you can convey, and yeah, and that's another thing with a short story that you had to do for a feature is you had to expand on things, and I personally like a lot of what they expand upon, you know, for the feature film in 84, but yeah, the $83 baby, it's on YouTube. I'll probably you know, throw a link to it in the description below, just so y'all, if you have never seen it, can check it out. The crow aspect, the Disciples of the Crow and everything, I mean, it still leans very heavily on Korn for the mythology and for everything, you know, the bloodthirstiness, although they do change the name of the town from Gatlin to Jonah, if I recall correctly. I just watched it, and I am still struggling to remember that, but yeah, so a couple odd choices, and there's lots of imagery of crows, you know, but I mean, if we're gonna take into consideration, you know, what takes on more resonance as time goes by with Cy King and whatnot, there's a lot of people who in the Hail to Stephen King Facebook group have said that they think Randall Flagg, since he has taken on many guises and had many names and stuff over all of these different years of Cy King stuff, that they think Flagg is the man who walks behind the rose. That can be neither confirmed nor denied, everybody. But yeah, I've found that theory, as it continues to be persistently you know, put forth by people, very, very interesting. But so yeah, maybe there's your crow connection. I don't know, but Disciples of the Crow, interesting. Check it out on YouTube if you get the chance. But so 84, the following year rolls around, and yeah, they're like, let's get her done. Let's do big budget. They were initially working on a script that King had written himself that really did focus on the quarreling couple, and like reports that I was reading as you know, just on the wikis and, you know, various other places, were saying that Cy King basically wanted like the first 20 minutes or so to be the quarreling couple and really just build all that character stuff between the two of them, and I can kind of see why they didn't go with that. You know, they did make effective use of it for the 2009 remake though, and they're just not the most likable characters, which is in some ways how they come across in the source material. So I don't know, but once again, another change that you can see the merit and the reason for making, you know. So yeah, that's something to keep in mind. But Linda Hamilton and the actor who plays Bert, who's damn, I had his name and it is just totally eluding me, but their chemistry is good, and the budget is not bad for this, although there are certain aspects, especially when a couple kills go down and stuff, and added kills, you know, there's one kind of odd addition with the rewritten script that we get, and that's the fact that there is one adult character at this gas station who has been left alive because they need one adult to kind of work as a liaison so that this community can continue propelling forward and, you know, help them get certain things and whatnot. But yeah, there's a lot of expansion, especially with the Isaac and with the Malachi characters, and with just the power struggle between the two of them. And that's really what I find the coolest in this adaptation, and the changes and the additions that were made and stuff like that. Malachi is the one who actually, it's a 35-year-old movie, so yeah, he goes against Isaac's decisions in a few things, one in particular being something that goes down with that particular adult that we meet, who has been kept alive just based on necessity. And there's also the addition of two kids that are also just not going along with, you know, it's a brother and a sister, and they have chosen that they don't really want to go along with all the other kids and this just, you know, tyrannical rule of blasphemy that Malachi and that you know, Isaac are putting forth, and, you know, like the two spearheads of. And so yeah, they actually, it is kind of a cheesy addition in some ways, but it works for the sheer fact that, you know, Linda Hamilton's character and, you know, the boyfriend and whatnot, they don't have any kids, and so it turns into this whole kind of maternal thing between the two of them. I don't know, some would probably argue that it's just adding additional fluff. That's not necessary, but I mean, so whereas the expansion of Isaac and Malachi works very well, in my estimation, the addition of this brother and sister who, much like the kid who we see getting killed at the very beginning, they don't want to be a part of it. They're kind of like maybe eyeing their options to potentially escape, and when they see this couple, you know, breezing through town and the opportunity, I don't know, the kids are effectively creepy at times, most notably the Isaac kid. He is super, super creepy in my estimation, and he really rocks that, and so is the Ginge too, man. Malachi has all the stuff with him, the addition of Outlander, we have your woman, Outlander. I always think of, I've referenced the South Park bits so many times, and yeah, South Park actually has that terrific episode of, you know, the molested me and everything, which is like a direct homage to this film. Did a terrific job with it, and, you know, provider, and it's like the John Elway statue and stuff, and such a great episode. But as far as like spoilers go and letting stuff know, yeah, Malachi kills the gas station attendant guy, and he also decides to do the little switcheroo and convince all of the other kids that Isaac is the one that needs to be sacrificed, as opposed to, you know, the woman that they've captured and everything, or at least, you know, put off her death. And so, yeah, they expand that craziness at the very end, and you get some very cool beats with the resurrected Isaac being like, you know, completely just brought back in some sort of like zombie-like state practically, but he's basically, his dead corpse has been possessed by he who walks behind the rose, and that's effectively creepy. And then there's all the additional stuff of them burning down the cornfields, and then it's the happy-go-lucky ending where, you know, the couple escapes. They don't die like in the short story, and yeah, I mean in the short where the girlfriend gets, you know, like all the corn husks like stuck in her face and everything. It's like really brutally done. And the discovery, which actually does make it to the film, the discovery of the dead, you know, pastor and police officer and stuff like that, that does make it into this first film. But I mean, I don't know, it's the Rays of Sunshine ending and not the dark, twisted, effed up one where the couple gets killed. Like you have in the short and in the 2009 remake. So I have gone on record here to say various times before that there's things that I like so much more about the 2009 remake, and that the remake also adds things, you know, themselves, which I find fairly effective, like the fact that, you know, boyfriend or husband, I'm trying to remember if they're actually married or not, but quarreling couple, we'll just say that he is a veteran, and they do some interesting stuff, I'd say, with you know, just the PTSD from him crawling through the rice paddies and everything, and where he's crawling through the cornfields. Those are things that are done very well in the 2009 remake, and so both of them add their respective bits, and there's merit to each. I like them both. I do appreciate the darker tone in some ways of the 2009, but I don't know. You've got those two iconic performances from the leaders, and this is the film that really set in the public consciousness, the '84 film that is, the whole creepy kid village of the damned thing, you know, went on to just sit in the pop culture lexicon and just reside with people, and that's why we ended up with so many of these sequels. And so in '92, where you had the final sacrifice, which it's pretty cheesy at times, and like the kills, like the house falling on that one. I mean, there's some bad stuff. It doesn't have the creep out factor, at least in my opinion, that, you know, the second film did, or excuse me, that the first film did. You know, so The Final Sacrifice Part 2 does not really do it for me, and the journalist and the snarky son and the little love interest thing, it's all just very meh. I don't know. I'm not too big a fan of The Final Sacrifice, at least by Part 3 with Urban Harvest, where like the kid turns up in the inner city and has like tending his own little cornfield like inside this complex. At least I feel like by the time the third one came out, they were kind of in on the joke almost, and they were embracing the cheese factor. And those are the only two that I have rewatched in the last few years. I don't even know if I've seen every single Children of the Corn sequel, because I really hated on them for a while. And then at this point, I feel like you just have to embrace the cheese, and we've been talking about, going back and doing all of them, because you've got like Fields of Terror and The Gathering and the 6th installment subtitled 666 Isaac's Return. They bring back the same kid, all grown up now, from the very first one who played Isaac and, was obviously killed by Malachi and then brought back by He Who Walks Behind the Rose. And then what they had Revelation, which was the 7th one, if I'm not mistaken. And then it was shortly after that they let the series sit and simmer for a while, and they didn't touch it for, I think, like 7 or 8 years. And then that was in 2009 when the Sci-Fi Channel remake came out, and the home release actually is a little bit gorier. There's some nudity, which I don't even really know how necessary it was, but it's during one of the ritualistic parts with, the pregnant couple and everything. And I mean, I'd say that as far as the most well-made and my personal favorite of the franchise, it is the remake. However, there's a lot of fun and a lot of a lot of nostalgia factor to the '84 film. And then for whatever reason, Dimension Extreme decided, after the Sci-Fi Channel did the made-for-TV, that they were gonna do their own soft reboot of sorts, and it was called Genesis. And that one I have not personally seen either. I purchased it recently because we're going to start reviewing all of these, like I said. And so that's something that you can definitely look forward to. But yeah, I mean, you've seen the likes of, I think Naomi Watts pops up in the 4th one. It was like one of the first things that she ever acted in. So you do very much like with what happened with, wasn't Paul Rudd originally in one of the Michael Myers films? I want to say it was Curse of Michael Myers, which was like the 6th one maybe. So yeah, you can see people, they get their start in genre, and then they move on to bigger things, and then they circle back to genre. Bruce Campbell was actually talking about that at the Mad Monster Charlotte panel and stuff. He's like, yeah, we move on to bigger things, but then we always just circle our way back to genre. And so many people end up in that little circly carousel wheel of Crazy Ka and whatnot. And then there was the most recent one, which was Runaway, which was originally billed as a direct sequel to the remake, but it didn't really end up being that at all. It was about this girl who ran away and grew up, and then she ends up just caught in that crap again. That came out last year, and it was initially, since I was such a big fan of the remake, it was one of my most anticipated films of 2018. And it ended up being one of the worst films I watched in 2018. So what are you going to do about that? Unfortunately, absolutely nothing. And you can find my review of that in the Stephen King themed playlist, just like you can find the review of both 1 and 2 together that I mentioned earlier that myself and Marcia and Cecil did. But, when it comes to just summing up the legacy for this series, it's creepy children have never gone out of style. They just keep circling back to it. And, I mean, just this year alone, we had The Prodigy, we had The Hole in the Ground, there's Brightburn, which is still coming. That's kind of creepy kid with the superhero slant to it. They remade Village of the Damned either once or twice. I know there was the one with Kristopher Reeves, but I mean, these are themes that continue to resonate. And honestly, for me, the reason Children of the Corn is so creepy is because of that blasphemous aspect that I mentioned earlier. The whole kids being just misled by a demonic presence, and just, I don't know, there's something very creepy about cornfields. There's a reason why we do cornfield mazes, around Halloween, and there's some that are open year-round, I would imagine, in, places all throughout the Midwest. And I mean, creepy kids coupled with cornfields, coupled with religious fanaticism. I mean, yeah, what's not to be just super, I don't know, super weirded out and unsettled by? And that's why this is the most franchised and adapted, and some might consider bastardized, but you know, hey, they kind of moved into being in on the joke, and yeah, Children of the Corn. I don't know if it's definitely not the most popular Stephen King title, but I feel like it has just had all of these different incarnations and entries for a reason, because of the fact that it's a transcendental, scary idea that a lot of people can relate to, and a lot of people can be just, yeah, like I said, weirded the hell out by. So that is just some brief thoughts here on, yes, none other than the Children of the Corn film franchise, and look forward to us tackling Urban Harvest and, you know, Fields of Terror, you know, the Gathering, and, you know, all of these different sequels, because, yes, myself and Marcia, and, yeah, it's gonna, myself, Marcia, and Cecil are gonna rock it proper, and it's gonna be super, super fun. So, I have been Jaime and Fuego, and I gotta give a shout out to the Hail to Stephen King Facebook group, and just all of the constant support and awesomeness that they have been helpful with, and we've got, what, about 400 different members on there. It's not tens of thousands like you have in some cases, but it's a very closely knit Ka-Tet, and the palaver that we all share is super, super fun. There is a new Stephen King book of the month, which is none other than right here on the shelfie. I mentioned this for the first time during the live discussion that we did about the Journals of Eleanor Druce, which was the book of the month in February, and the reason for that was because it's the 15th anniversary of Kingdom Hospital, which was basically Cy King adapting Lars von Trier's The Kingdom, and just putting his own little main slant on it, and it's called Kingdom Hospital. I'm going to be doing a retro review of that limited series, and yeah, we did a discussion about kind of the prequel-y type book, which is right there on my shelf. But the book of the month for here in March is none other than The Girl Who Loved Tom Gordon. It's a very quick read, y'all, so it should not be too difficult if you are inclined to check it out. It's like a couple hundred, I want to say, yeah, barely over 200, so it ties in with King's love of the Red Sox, and it almost could have been a children's story if not for the fact that there's just a little bit of language here or there that King apparently did not want to trim. And yeah, so he stuck to his guns, and good for him, I suppose. But yeah, it's about this girl who is on a vacation with her family, and she gets lost in the woods, and all that she has is her trusty Walkman, and she's trying to listen to the Red Sox game and, you know, see how her favorite player, Tom Gordon, does. And I also did a like pop-up picture book, which I have up there on the very top of the shelf. So if you have any interest and inclination in being a part of the March Stephen King Book of the Month, at the beginning of April, I will be doing the next live stream discussing this book. And yeah, also, if you get the chance, I just recently did a retro review anniversary of Storm of the Century as well, which was Cy King's, you know, writing a novel, or basically as a series for Scream, which was a lot of fun. So, yes, once again, I've been Jaime and Fuego, and I would love to have you be a part of the Hail to Stephen King Facebook group, where I am the sole moderator and admin. Jump on, ask, and I shall accept. We just try to keep it strictly to Cy King and a little bit of his family, like Joe Hill and stuff like that discussion. Boy, what else? Yeah, you can find me on all social media sectors like Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. I have my own YouTube channel that I've been doing a lot of new coverage on. Boy, I just put up my thoughts on Captain Marvel. Another one that's coming very soon is going to be Fighting with My Family. I did all 8 of the Best Picture nominations just a couple weeks ago. What else? I'm doing some Star Wars coverage, one film in timeline order, leading all the way up to the Episode 9 release in December. So far, I have done Attack of the Clones and Phantom Menace, and the next one coming up is going to be the animated Clone Wars. So, yeah, make sure to jump over, like, share, subscribe, hit the bell so that you can get notifications about any time there's new content there on Infuegotainment, which is my personal channel, or here on The Horror Show, where we do a couple episodes a day. We have a Patreon where you can tell us what to review and do and all of that rad statusness. But here in the channel proper, trailer reactions, film reviews. Hail to Stephen King here twice a week also. Every terrifying Tuesday, every scarific Saturday. It's a passion project of mine, and I'm quickly approaching the 150th episode of this program. Man, what a journey, and there's so much more awesomeness to look forward to. We just got our press confirmation for, early April for Pet Sematary. Woo! Cannot wait to see how that all pans out. And then in September, hit Chapter 2, you've got In the Tall Grass, you have Dr. Sleep that was just recently moved into the year of 19. It was originally going to be out in January of next year. So, I mean, and The Institute coming out in September. I mean, this is going to be a really busy year for Hail to Stephen King. I'm doing a Year of 19 panel at the Phoenix Fan Fusion Comic Fest, whatever the heck they call it. They just keep changing the name up, and I can't even get it straight. But Memorial Day weekend, I'm going to be doing a Stephen King panel talking about the Year of 19, its significance, and that's going to be a ton of fun. So, yes, everybody, that is going to take us to the end of this crazed cornfield, at least for now. What do you think about the Children of the Corn franchise? What do you think about the iconic 1984 film that I think they made it on a budget of like $800,000, and it churned in like well over 10, 15, 20 million, something like that, maybe even more than that. But it was a big success, and it was released at the time where King was like at the top of, he had ascended to just the level of his name. I mean, in 83 was really, the year that he was completely solidified with Pet Sematary and Christine, and, putting out 3 books that year, putting out, 3 films that year, and 84 just continued that string of hits, and yeah, he had ascended to the throne by that point, that is for damn sure. But yes, which Children of the Corn movie do you think, if you've seen all of these wacky sequels, which one do you think is the most underrated, is the most fun, the most silly, whatever? Which one are you most looking forward to myself, Marcia, and Cecil tackling? I would love to hear it in the comments below. But yeah, I guess until the Wheel of Ka comes around once more, hasta luego, cinemigos, and constant readers and viewers alike. I hope that we get further palaver sooner rather than later. Say thank you. And until that instance occurs, remember, y'all, stay scared. And read Stephen King, Nightshift. Check out the Children of the Corn short story, because if you haven't before, some pretty unsettling shizzle.